In this video, I'm going to share my interview experience with TCS. Okay, let us get jump started. So to start off, I've joined the given link for the virtual meet, and after joining the link, there were three panels who were in the interview. The two were technical panels, and one was like HR who was communicating. And then we started off. So let us directly get into the questions and see what are the questions they have asked me. So the interview went on for like say 40 to 45 minutes, and the first thing is to just get to know what is the candidate and all. Like one generic question every interviewer asks, like tell me about yourself, or what kind of work you have done on Tableau, so that they wanted to know. So in that, what I told them is like my project experience, my day-to-day roles and responsibilities, and what I have done in my project. So this is very very important, guys. Remember, okay? So whenever an interviewer is asking us what we are doing in the project and all, they are specifically interested in knowing what we have done in our project. Okay, so what are your day-to-day activities? So do you deal with the clients? So do you face, is your role client facing role? So do you take requirements and all? So they would like to see that kind of exposure in a candidate, so that they can use those candidates in multiple places. So having a client interaction would definitely add a few points in your resume. Now coming to Tableau. So after describing my experience and all, they started off with the technical questions in the interview. So first they gave me this question, like difference between extract and data source filter. So the answer was very very simple here. So first, what is filter? We need to describe it's something that will restrict the data. Now a filter that is applied on the extract is an extract filter, and data source filter is something that is applicable to the entire workbook. So we can use in places where we want to identify the scope of data. Suppose we want to filter the data only for 2020. Okay, so client asks us to prepare the report only on year 2020, and but your database has the data for all the years, like say 5 years of data you have, but for the remaining 4 years of data is irrelevant for you. If unnecessary you are increasing the volume of your data, or the load on your Tableau. So here we can put a filter called as data source filter here. Okay, extract is something that you are applying specifically to the extract, not to the live data. Now, next question was, what is cascading filter? Again, another question on filter topic here. So filters topic plays very important role in interview. So you might get 2 to 3 questions on filter. So that's why always, 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 make sure you are very perfect with the filters concept. Okay, so let's say cascading filter. So cascading filter is something when you have multiple filters in place. Okay, so your view will automatically get filtered when you are selecting multiple drop downs, but the filters, the quick filters or the user filters that are visible to the end user on the view, they should also get updated based on your multiple selections. Like you can see when we fill the online forms. So when you select a particular state, only cities of that particular state are listed. So how is that happening? That is happening with the concept called as cascading filter. So next is, what is difference between your embedded data source and published data source? So embedded data source is something that you are embedding in your Tableau workbook. Okay, so published data source is something that you are publishing separately, which you can again use it as your data source to connect from your Tableau. So suppose when while we are publishing our workbook to the server, we embed our our data source information in our workbook, and we embed password. So why do we do this? If you don't do, whenever a client or a user is logging into our report from the server, he will be prompted with a username and password for our data source information. So that is sensitive information which we cannot share with the end user. So that will only be shared with the developers. So we embed them into our workbook, because from server level, Tableau can directly connect to the data source and fetch the result. Okay, and users are not prompted with this data source connection information. So next is, what is blending? Again, one of the very common questions, what is blending? So often many get confused between join and blend. So joining, like say here, there are two important properties for this. Joining, one common answer that everyone gives, like whenever it is same data source, and whenever we want to connect or join multiple tables, we use a concept called join. And whenever we have different data sources, like I have one Oracle data source, I have one extract, and I want to get the data from these two tables, then I use a concept called as blending. So here, while joining, if you have observed, the join section in Tableau, you will see operators there equal to. So like from table 1, my category is equal to category in the second table, or not equal to, or less than or equal to, greater than. These operators we see in the joins. And we have join types also, like left join, inner join, full join, or right join. So this kind of joins we have. But in blending, we do not have that concept. Blending works like an equal to operator. So only when the record is matching with the second table, then only that data will come. Otherwise, the record will not come. So this is 2 to 3 points you need to add whenever an interviewer is asking you about blending. One very important question here again. Next is, how do you apply row level security here? Again, security is one of the major thing that a client looks for, because the data that you might be working on might be very sensitive data sometimes, and it cannot be like shared with anyone who is part of the server. So for that, only to the specific managers who are part of that region, that should be shared. So how do we do that? So generally, if you have very limited users, we can individually create a user filter by going to the server option, or we can take the approach of creating a table in your database and making a join with that. That is second option. Or we can also use the concept of is member of function that is available in Tableau. So there are 3 approaches to this. Okay. So one is, if you have very limited users, you can directly go and create user filter and manually assign the regions for that respective managers. If you have many users, and you can create groups, and based on groups you can apply like is member of function you can use, that is available in Tableau. And the other one is, you can also create the same thing in Tableau, create a username table, okay, and the respective regions that they should have access to, and based on that make a join on that table, and you should be able to solve this, or get the security to the user. So for this, while you are working on this row level security using tables, you need to use a function called as username function. So it will get the username whenever you are logging into the server, and it will try to match with the database, and then it will fetch the results. Next is, how will you what will you do when the report is not showing any data in the server? So this was one of the questions that I was asked. Now, whenever report is not showing in the server, first thing that you need to check is whether you are able to establish a connection with your data source or not, or is there any data refresh issue, or some the server is down, or your database is down. So these kind of checks you might want to do whenever the report is not showing on the database. So based on that, you can take next step. Suppose if your database is down, you might connect to database team, or suppose some refresh is happening at the database, then the job didn't run and it's showing blank. So then you might want to rerun the job again and see whether it is failing. You might also want to see what is the error message that you got at the server level. Okay, suppose a job is running and it has failed. So you might also want to see what is the sale, all that. Next is, how will you do a performance recording on the server again of your workbook? Sorry, again, this is very important question. Performance recording of the workbook can be done in 2 ways. Okay, guys. So one is from the desktop level. You can go to, so if I show my here from this, so let us connect to our sample superstore here, and go to help, here settings and performance, and here you have start performance recording. Okay, next option is from server. You can click on the URL link, and at the end of the link append just to start performance, or sorry, performance underscore recording is equal to yes. If you do that, automatically the recording will stop, and you can stop it to create a Tableau workbook file. Next is explain parameter use case. Again, how you have implemented parameter in your project. Okay, what are the different use cases? So generally, if at all we are creating a dashboard, there are chances that we might have created multiple parameter scenarios. So at least have 1 to 2 of the use cases ready with them. Okay, so here 1 to 2 use cases. parameter ready. Okay, so what is increment filter again? So whenever we have an extract filter here, again, if I go to my data source here, increment filter, how do you apply an incremental filter and what are the different options that we got here? So if I click on this edit option here, you see here we have all rows or incremental refresh here. If I click on incremental refresh option, I'm getting an option table to refresh, select the table, and then here you have to choose one column here. So then generally incremental refresh happens on the column, on a primary key kind of column, like on the date field, on the order ID field. So that kind of very important column you have to identify. Based on that, Tableau will try to fetch the new data. So that is about incremental filter here. Next is, how do you migrate reports in project? Again, this is one of the very important project, and it depends from company to company, and it differs from project to project. So generally, if I talk with respect to the environments, so the standard environments are development environment, QA for testing environment, and our production environment. So there can be 3 environments here. So this is like common, like most commonly followed efforts for. So dev is for development of your reports, and QA is for testing of and production. Once all the development is done, all the testing is done, and the users are fine with that, they gave the sign off on the report, then that is when you will move the report to the production environment. So often it depends, sometimes you will be part of this migration, where you will only be directly moving reports from one environment to another environment, or there might be another team who will be doing that. So similarly, development, it's all up to us developers. QA, it can be again another team who is testing, or there will be if there are no testing teams, the other person from the team might test your report and you'll be testing his reports. It depends how we are managing in each project. Again, production, once everything is done, we got a sign up on the project, we will be moving that report to the production environment. Now, how will you find the issue in the project? So this was very generic issue. Generic question. So for this, what we can do is, first we can do a performance recording and see where the problem is. Okay, performance on the workbook that has the issue, or that user reported has an issue. So here, after doing a performance recording, okay, so what you need to do is see where is it taking most time, whether it is consuming time to query the data, or whether it is consuming time to render report, or consuming time to calculate the calculations, and also where it is doing that. So based on that, you will be able to take your necessary actions, and along with this, you can also add some extra points, like what are the steps that you will take to improve the performance of your report, removing unwanted fields or unused fields, hiding unused fields, trying to have an integer calculation than string wherever it is possible, trying to use inbuilt calculations of Tableau, clearing of the unwanted worksheets in Tableau, okay, or unwanted dashboards. So that way we can use, these are some of the tips that we can use to improve the performance of our Tableau workbook. So this will answer approach for fixing the report. And then how will you test the report? Again, this is one very important question. So generally, after development of, after developing our report, we need to test our report thoroughly. So that is what is called as testing of report, or preparing test case document, we call. Okay, preparing test case document. So here, suppose I'm creating a simple view here. So just to explain you clearly, I'm going to sheet here, and okay, so let me make it. Yeah. So here, suppose I'm taking my category as a stat, or suppose let us take order date here, and I'm taking my sales as my standard measure, and I'm also taking my, let's say, region here. Okay, and just I'm converting it to cost tab here. Now, if you see here, we got some values here, like say for central region in 2016, we got sales of 1,03,000 approximately. East, we got like 1,28,000. South, we got 1,03,000. Now here we are getting some values here. Okay. So how are we getting these values? We are getting this from somewhere in the database, right? So you need to go back to that database and check by using or framing or writing your SQL queries. Writing SQL queries and validating. Suppose you are getting 1,03,000 here in the database also, you should get exactly one or the same number you should get. Validating each value in the report against your database value. So then only that test case is passed. Now, suppose this central region here is 1,03,000. So I'll go and test if it is matching or not. So one test case is passed for East, I'll match it like this, like that. So central, I'll check the spelling here and what is the spelling there. I'll try to match everything so everything is fine or not. So that way I'll prepare my test case and document here. Very, 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 very important. So after you make sure, all of your reports are working fine, all of your values are matching, only then we will be giving it to QA team to validate or to test. Because again, if you are not testing, and you're directly sending it, QA team will come back and say what testing or what kind of testing have you done in your development. And also you can show this document because I have created this kind of test documents, it was matching for me that time. So this will also be like as a savior for you. So make sure you are testing your report thoroughly. Any issues are there, you can fix that time, and then again you can test it, and like that you can fix it. Next is migration of project. I think we have discussed here dev, QA and prod. So migration of project generally first, where is that? So the process is like first in development, you will be developing or you will be creating report. So here a number of times you can publish the report. Okay, so every day's progress also you can put it into development environment, and only developers like us will have access to that. So once your development is completely done, you have tested all your reports and you are fine with all the reports, all the data, everything is matching, then you need to migrate it to QA environment. So download the report that is there in development, connect it to QA database, and then publish it to QA environment. So here QA team will testing of our report. QA team will test the report. Okay, so once they test and if they identify any bugs, they'll come back and with the question like so and so value is not matching, or so and so label is not correct. So there is no value mismatch, or the drop downs are not working. Any kind of issue you might get, we just try to fix that, resolve the bug. Here we can not publish as and when we want, because there are testers who are working on your report. So you will be given a time window, like some Tuesdays and Thursdays or Mondays and Fridays, like that. There will be some defined days in your project, or it depends on company to company, but there will be some defined window, and during that only you will be allowed to publish a report in the environment or in to the QA testing. So during that time, you will be if any defects are there, you will be fixing all of them, and you will be moving into testing team all at once, or in the environment all at once. Next is production. So once QA test team gives to sign off that they have tested all the report, that is when you will be moving your report to production. So again, to move the report to the production, you will need approval from all of them, and again you cannot publish it as and when you want. So you will be needed all the permissions, why you are publishing, what is the use case, what is the business need, and all. So there will be again a defined time limit or a defined window during which you will be allowed to publish the report to your production. Same thing, download the report from your testing environment, which was given sign off on. Download the report and connect it to production database, and then move it to production. That is how it happens. Okay. So here, download the report from dev, download the report from dev, connect it to QA environment, and publish it to QA. Same thing here. I'm writing the same thing here, but here download the report from QA here, and then connect to prod database. Okay, and publish it to your prod environment. Okay, so that's how the migration process generally happens. So make sure you are connecting to the correct data source in the correct environment. So it's not like you are publishing report to your production, but you are using database. So generally these kind of issues happen, or one of the common mistakes here. Make sure you are connecting to the right database in the right environment. Again, because of that also you might get database issues here. Okay, next is, have you ever worked on production? So these are like some, if you have ever worked, you can answer it. Have you ever worked on production down or high priority bug? Then you can explain the approach here. So basically, if you're working in a production support project, and sometimes directly report might be down, or report might not be rendering values, or some issues you might get, then he's asking, I mean, have you ever worked on that? So sometimes while you are working on some defect, or you might get a high impact ticket. So you have made some change, but that has a cascading impact on the other report as well. So again, so we have to make sure that it is not having any impact on the other reports as well. So that is about this. Next is, do you have again, this is one of the generic tools, like having knowledge on ticketing tools and all, like Jira, ServiceNow, Incident Management. So these are ticketing tools where we track the information of all the bugs that are identified in our project. Okay. So again, it depends on company to company and project to project what they're using. Some companies use Jira, ServiceNow, Incident Management, all are the different ticketing tools that are available. Okay. So these were the questions that were asked. Let me know your feedback. Okay, so that's it from my side in this video. Hope you find this useful. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.